Good evening, day walkers and night stalkers. It's me, your twisted southern horror queen, coming to you live from under a full moon right here in southeastern Louisiana, where we're going to give Facebook one more shot. Spectrum has been out recently and done a whole lot of work, so hopefully that will resolve some of the issues that we've been having here on the live streams. You guys let me know how it's looking and sounding out there. Hopefully we won't have any problems. Hey, Michelle and Freddie are in the house. Thank you guys so much for giving me another shot. Hopefully I have any issues tonight. I'd hate to drop the F-bomb, but it could happen. There's my redheaded sister, Karen Mathis. Nice to see you this evening, my sweetness. Let's get everything rolling. It's been a couple weeks. I feel like I'm being reunited with family and friends that I haven't seen in forever, thanks to all these technical issues. And, of course, the internet did decide to go out today about, 2 hours ago, so I started sweating, trying to figure out if I was actually going to take a stab at doing this tonight, but Glenn Harrison kind of pushed me over the edge and said, yeah, you need to do it, so get up off your ass and do a live stream tonight. So here I am, and hopefully we'll stay live, and hopefully we'll stay streaming, right? Okay, so big shout out to all of the sponsors. Of course, there's Rod Inc. Those are the guys that make those crazy Louisiana Urban Legend t-shirts. Yes, indeed. I'll be sporting those every once in a while. Love going to the Walmart wearing those bad boys. Also like wearing my mask that Eddie Milburn from Crazy Thing Art spray painted or airbrushed for me. Is that not freaking awesome? Yes, my Venom mask. I'm digging that. Let me see if I can get the screen where I can actually see what's going on here. And maybe it'll work with me. Maybe it won't. You never know. Also, we got Coffee Shop of Horrors. Yes, that's right. Go to authorlyngibson.com and you can click on all of my sponsors' links there. It gives you the discount codes. And, of course, there's a discount code for these guys. They're freaking awesome. Go shopping at coffeeshopofhorrors.com. Pick you out some different blends. And after you create an account and go to checkout, use code EDGE 2020 and get 10% off of your entire order. You can do the same thing on Rod Inc. Use the code Horror Queen and get 10% off of your order there. Guarantee you, if you check out their Etsy store, you're going to see something that you've got to have, especially if you're into horror. Check out the Rougarou t-shirt. I don't know, it's a toss-up between the Rougarou and the Fiffle, which one's my favorite. I like both of them. But they do have many, many others. Digging the Axeman shirt, digging the Honey Allen Swamp Monster shirt. Yes, they have that. It's a Louisiana Urban Legend. I guarantee you they got a t-shirt for it. Check it out. I never thought that anybody else other than the guys that watch this show would have ever heard of the Fiffle, but lo and behold, they have a t-shirt for that there. Is that freaking awesome or what? Let's see if I can scroll down and give some more shout-outs and see what's going on. Freddie, you were so awesome. He's got a link up there to authorlyngibson.com. Check that out. John Biggins, nice to see you. Antonio, yes, I got my naked wines in the house. What you drinking tonight, my love? Hey, Susie Jones, glad to see you joining in. Matt Gibson, nice to see you this evening, my love. And there's Wanda Heron. That's my favoriteest aunt in the whole world. She's chiming in from Pearl River County, Mississippi. Yes, indeed. All kind of madness going on in Mississippi these days, as well as everywhere else in this freaking country. Everybody's lost their damn minds here recently. It's almost like they've been following the show. Hey, Holly, good to see you, sweetheart. Thanks for joining in this evening. Hopefully everything is going to go fine, and we won't have any issues. I guess time will tell, right? Also, one of my favorite sponsors, and Wanda, you'll have to forgive me, I'm using a glass that Belinda gave me. Says drinks well with others, and yes, I do that. Naked wines, absolutely. You guys notice I've gone to the lighter wines. 3 or 4 years ago when I started to show out, I wouldn't touch anything but Merlots, and now I'm like all over the lighter colored wines. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it's old age. I don't know. Never really met a wine that I didn't like. They're all good to the last drop. Naked Wines, that's right. If you want to try a case of Naked Wines, get in touch with me. I have $100 discount codes you can use. That gets you a free case with free shipping on your first order. A case of wine, you mix and match it any which way you want it. Open the door, FedEx is there with a case of wine waiting for you. How freaking awesome is that? You can't beat that. Also, my last and most favorite sponsor, besides Naked Wines, but that's because Belinda and the guys over at Big Time Vapes, yeah, they've helped me down a few bottles of Naked Wines as well. That's right, Big Time Vapes, if you are having a hard time getting supplies and parts for your mod, I guarantee if you get in touch with those guys, they have it. They can create any single juice that you could dream of if they don't already have it in stock. I have some of my favorites and have actually created one of my favorites. They call it strawberry milkshake. It's yummy too. Smells just like milkshake. Tastes like a dessert, so it kind of helps you out with that sweet tooth thing. Yes, that's right. Vaping can help you lose a little bit of weight if you're trying. It will definitely help you quit smoking. So if you are trying to kick the habit, get in touch with the guys at Big Time Vapes. You can find them here on Facebook, and they will help you be successful in your goals. Okay, so now I think I have given all the shout outs. We're going to start the show rolling this evening. Like I said, all kind of madness going on this week. As usual, there's always all kind of madness going on right here on the Twisted Southern Horror Queen stream. But the real world, yes, madness, madness. So last week, 74-year-old Joseph D'Angelo has decided he's going to take the plea deal, which will, of course, spare him the death penalty. Now, this crusty old douchebag is going to plead guilty for the 13 murders that he committed between 1976 and 1986. How freaking gracious of him, right? The dude's crusty and old. He's like already on his deathbed. Why in the hell is he worried about the death penalty? He's going to drop dead before they can stick a needle in him. Anyway, this dude, I'm guessing that his name might sound just a tad bit familiar to you. Yeah, it should, because this nasty bastard started off his career as a serial rapist, and there's nearly 50 confirmed sexual attacks in his repertoire, 13 known murders, and over 100 burglaries. But his first official murder didn't go down until like February 1978. And there was a gap in between that and the next few. There were a spurt of them. That happened in October 79. Yeah, it's starting to ring a bell with you, right? Seems that toward the end of his criminal rampages when he started becoming enthralled with taking the lives of his victims. And that's when he earned the title, the Golden State Killer. Yeah, ding, 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 bells going off now, right? This dude was so freaking brazen. He wouldn't pick just one victim. And it really didn't matter if husband and wife were home. It didn't matter if there were kids home. If he picked somebody he wanted, damn everybody else that's in the house. And if they got in the way, they got tortured, abused, and possibly raped as well. And towards the end of his career, like we said, they may have wound up dead. Yeah, that happened too. This dirty bastard right here is no shock in finding out that he was a cop. Yeah, a lot of the time when he was doing some of this crazy shit, the dude was actually on the police force. He was patient, he was smart, he was conniving. Chances were, if anybody was making those 911 calls back in the day, if they had that then, I should remember, but I don't, because I'm an 80s child. It's gone. So anyway, if folks were calling the police station going, hey, there's some dude crawling in the window of my neighbor's house, he had his little radio on, and he knew what was going on, so he could bug out before his buddies got there with the blue lights, right? Yeah, this dude had his shit straight. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he didn't jump into any situation. And he got away with all of this madness for over 40 years. 44 years they looked for this filthy, nasty bastard and couldn't find him. So how did they actually catch him? DNA, folks. That's right. DNA don't lie. They tracked this old dude down and found something that he discarded and started tracing his DNA back. Yeah, definitely. The kicker is that this dude was living out his retirement not far. As a matter of fact, under like 5 to 10 miles from where he had raped and murdered and pillaged for over a decade. Now, of course, his crimes moved from county to county. I wanted to say parish, but we're the only ones that got that here in Louisiana. But he moved around basically in a circular radius from where he was. This dude buys this house and just moves in right smack dab in the middle of all his crime scenes and kicks back ready to retire. Imagine he's sitting in a lawn chair on his back porch with a 6-pack of beer going, got y'all suckers, right? Yeah, that's just freaking tragic. Hiding in plain sight. He, as well as many other serial killers and violent offenders, they all had normal lives. They all had normal jobs. They were always outstanding members of the community. Most of them, including this dude here, were married and had 3 daughters at home. How in the hell do you not know what's going on? Now, I understand police officers work some crazy hours and they come home pretty much freaked out most of the time from some of the things that they see and experience in their line of work. So, yeah, maybe I could see how his wife was overlooking some of the things. Now, the chick that he was actually married to, they had been estranged for quite a while, but she actually didn't file for divorce. And, of course, she got it right after he was arrested. So, yeah, at least she was freed from that. But she wasn't the first one that he had decided he was going to marry. There's this chick that he started dating while they were in college together. They dated for like 2 years. And whenever he was fixing to go into a course and he had an exam and he knew he wasn't going to do well on it, he would try to convince this chick to cheat for him. I don't know how in the hell she was supposed to cheat for him, but, you know, it was back in the day. There weren't cameras, so I don't know, maybe she was going to do a Vicky Valancourt, stand outside the window with flashcards, whatever. Anyway, the chick wasn't going for it. She wasn't having any of that. So the more he pressed her to help him pass with his tests and things, the more she objected, and eventually she broke off the engagement. She was done with his crazy ass. Well, he wasn't done with her. So he crawls up the side of her building, knocks on her dorm window one night. She's a couple floors up, and he's got a gun pointed at her and tells her that she's finna leave with him right then, and they were going to Reno, and she was going to marry his ass. Well, of course, she said no. She called the police on his ass. He ran away, and that was all there was to that. So, yeah, she was the smart one. She could have wound up dead just as easily, though, because apparently he was a little bit on the obsessed side with her. So, anyway, yes, he was a sadistic serial killer, sadistic serial rapist, just like so many others that look normal to the neighbors and the community that surrounded him, or that he surrounded in this particular case. I'll take John Wayne Gacy, for example. Yeah, that sign of normalcy right there, that went south real quick, fast, and in a hurry, right? So anyway, keep your eyes open for his televised sentencing, because that will be upcoming. I'm thinking it should be pretty freaking interesting, because he's going to have to stand in front of his surviving victims, and the victims are the families of the victims of the people that he killed. While he admits guilt, he's going to have to hear their 2 cents worth as well. So, yeah, that's going to be a shit show right there, folks. Tune into that. But in the meanwhile, while we're waiting for that date to be announced, check out I'll Be Gone in the Dark on HBO. That is a movie that is based on this sick bastard's life and crime. So, at least you can kind of educate yourself in a 2-hour span. It's easier than reading all the police reports, trust me, because they're all scattered all over the place. So, yeah, watch the movie, be waiting for the sentencing date, and then tune in for that, because I can bet you I will definitely be watching that madness. So, while we're on the topic, let's go on and dive straight in and talk about a little bit more psycho. That's right, like Norman Bates, knife-wielding psycho. Well, not exactly Norman, because, well, Norman was a character, but he was a character that was based off of a true serial killer, and this dude was one hell of a sick bastard here. And you guys know who I'm talking about. I'm sure some of y'all do, because I'm not the only one twisted enough to study all this kind of stuff. And I may or may not have talked about this dude on a past show, so I don't know, maybe you guys have heard something about this dude, Gain. He was born in 1906, and he was raised in rural Wisconsin with his older brother, Henry, and of course his parents, Augusta and George. Well, as with all deranged lunacy, it begins at home, right? So George the father was an alcoholic, but he was also a very meek and basically spineless man. Perhaps he'd been beaten into submission by Augusta, who was said to be one of those raging religious fanatics. Augusta detested George. There was no question of who wore the pants in this family. So poor George has no say in how his sons were raised nor any other aspect of his own life. This dude was so weak-spirited that he couldn't even hold a job down because of Augusta's outrageous demands. Could you imagine living with this twat? Anyway, the two boys, they were definitely some odd cookies because of their upbringing here, right? This chick Augusta forbid them to have any kind of social contact whatsoever beyond church and school. Now, Henry was definitely the stronger of the two, and sometimes he would complain about their mother, but Ed, on the other hand, would always defend her, and because of Henry's negativity towards her, he clung to his mother. Nothing much really ever changed in the Gain household. Both sons, which are now full-grown men, still lived at home with their parents, at least until 1940 when George died. Poor bastard was free at last. So now their dad's gone, and the two sons had to venture out into the community in search of some kind of odd jobs in order to support Augusta, because they had no social skills. They didn't have what they called the social skills. And they probably didn't learn a whole hell of a lot in school. I'm sure they just sit there and daydreamed of having some kind of normalcy in their lives. Anyway, even though they're out there trying to find work and to get involved in the real world, this tiny little taste of freedom set loose an independent streak in Henry. So this dude is finally getting a taste of the outside world, and now he's pissed because he's been sheltered for his entire life. So Henry starts complaining again about their mother, and of course, Ed defends her. So a short while later, in 1944, both of the sons were out trying to fight this brush fire on a farm that was just down the road from them. Well, Henry doesn't come home. So the authorities are called in, and Ed admits that, yeah, he noticed Henry had gone missing, but he didn't really think much of it. Later, they find Henry's bruised and battered body on an unburned patch of grass in the middle of where the brush fire had been burning like crazy. So they didn't open any kind of investigation. It was back in the day, right? No DNA, no forensic files, none of that kind of madness. They just pretty much assumed that poor Henry died of smoke inhalation while he's out there fighting his fire, right? So from here on out, it's just Ed and Augusta. Well, Ed was content as hell with that because there's no other distractions. He had his mother's full attention for at least a year. Problem. Augusta dies in 1945, and that was absolute point break for Ed. So now he's all alone in the world with nowhere to go but crazy. So Ed seals off every unused room in this house to be preserved as shrines to his mother. And during this time, he became obsessed with dead people and graveyards, with one other exception. He enjoyed spending time with children, and apparently he had served several members of the community as a babysitter. Ed Gain was a babysitter. How fantastic was that? So, everything seems to be right as rain until November 17th, 1957. So, Ed's seen hanging around outside one of the local hardware stores. And it's late in the morning, and the store hadn't opened yet, so something's definitely wrong here, right? Shortly after Ed leaves, customers come by and they find that the doors are still locked. So they're peeking inside, and as they do, they see this pool of blood on the floor. So the police come, and when they get there, they question the bystanders. So bystanders say, well, that weird dude Game, yeah, he was hanging around out here when we got here, but he left. So the police, they decide they're going to go arrest Ed. And what they found spawned not only the Psycho movie, but also Silence of the Lambs and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So go Ed, right? So the police bust into his house and they immediately were astounded by what they saw. In the kitchen were cured body parts, bowls that were made out of skulls, and a wastebasket that was made of human skin. On the stove was a skillet, and sizzling away inside the skillet was breakfast, a human heart. In other rooms, they found clothes made of human body parts and masks made from human faces, Leatherface. So in the basement, they found a decapitated body hanging by its ankles. Just happened to be the body of Bernice Worden, the owner of the closed hardware store. Now, with all these bodies and body parts all over the place, Ed still refuses to admit that he murdered anybody. When questioning starts getting a little bit more aggressive, he finally confesses to having accidentally killed two of the victims. Of course, Mrs. Worden, because he's busted red-handed, and another woman that turned up missing in 1954. He then further confessed that all of the other parts had come from cemeteries. Ed, in his delusional state, was trying to take on the role of Augusta, Norman Bates. He had exhumed the bodies of old women that resembled his mother, cutting off their faces from their skulls and skinning their bodies so that he could wear their skin. He kind of wanted to know what it was like to have female parts. Anyway, in his years of trying to play both roles, he found that dead human skin had a tendency to dry out and crack, so he would often require fresh flesh. So, of course, he could keep his female face and body parts more lively, and they would hold up a little bit longer. So, Ed gets arrested and he goes to trial, and lo and behold, he's deemed not only schizophrenic, but he's also titled as a sexual psychopath. We call that lagniappe here in Louisiana. That means a little something extra. Anyway, Ed spent the rest of his life in Mendota Mental Health Institute. And I kind of wonder if he ever got a chance to see any of the movies that he inspired by his works. You think they show the crazies that? Maybe give them an extra dose of meds, set them all in a room, and stick a movie in the old VCR? Why not? Who the hell are they going to kill? They're stuck there. All right, so definitely a creepy start to our show this evening. I got something else a little bit creepy I wanted to tell you about. We're kind of all over the place tonight, but I'll have to keep you guys guessing, right? So, next up, creepy little tale about a tree I want to share. Yes, a tree. The Devil's Tree in New Jersey is one sinister-looking tree. According to the locals, there's a ton of crazy legends associated with it. Everyone in the vicinity of Bernards Township seems to have some kind of story about it. One legend says that back in the day, a farmer killed his entire family and then he goes to the tree and hangs himself. But there's other legends that say there's been numerous suicides and murders that have gone down there at this tree. Locals will also tell you that if anybody tries to cut this cursed tree down, that they're going to find themselves at an untimely end. The souls of those that were killed at this spot somehow are giving this tree an unnatural warmth. And even in the dead of winter, when the snow's falling, as soon as it lands on the tree or on the roots of the tree, on the ground right there beneath the tree, it immediately melts. Now, Weird New Jersey, if you're a freak like me, I'm sure you follow them. If you don't, Google them and make sure you get their emails weekly, because there's some crazy stuff they go out and investigate. I get a lot of material from those guys. So they go out there and they visit the Devil's Tree a few years ago. And in their investigation, they stated having noticed evidence where many attempts had been made to cut this evil sucker down. Obviously, all of them failed. The tree stands alone in the middle of a large field off Mountain Road. Now, they said there's several scars on its trunk that have been caused by axes and chainsaws, and a lot of those wounds are very, very old, obviously. The tree stands, like I said, by itself in a very large field, and beneath it is said to be the portal to hell. Locals say that there's a sentinel that also guards this tree to keep anybody from damaging it. And those folks that have encountered this dude say that he drives an old black pickup truck and he'll chase you away from the tree and follow you down the road. They say that as you're driving away, his blinding headlights come barreling up behind you, and then all of a sudden he vanishes into thin air. Yeah, we know a lot about those phantom truck drivers, specifically truck drivers. I know of one motorcycle driver. We talked about a legend with that. The dude wrapped his bike around a tree. But there's a whole lot of urban legends that have to do with big black pickup trucks and lights coming straight at you, and then they disappear in thin air. Anyway, the locals say that the inherent unholiness of the devil's tree is the result of evil that men do, and that it shouldn't be blamed on the devil himself. A prime example is a well-known evil truth, not wicked truth, which, if you're interested, is on sale right now, $20. Go to authorlyngibson.com and get you an autographed copy of The Wicked Truth. It will blow your mind, folks. Anyway, this wicked truth in particular is that the tree used to be a KKK hangout. Yep, back in the day, Bernards Township was one of the central headquarters of the KKK in New Jersey, and their association was quite active there. Many lynchings are said to have gone down there at this one particular tree. Because back then, even though it stands alone in a very secluded field, it was even more secluded back then. There wasn't a neighbor anywhere around that could see this tree. And of course, the police weren't making runs out there. So it's said that the evil energy around the tree comes from the souls of the dead men and women who were killed there, whether by their own hand or by someone else's. So it was as if this tree knew its purpose when it was maturing. The leftmost branch extends almost parallel to the ground, and this was, of course, the hanging branch. It's said that still today, when the moon is full, and especially under a harvest moon, and the wind is blowing just right, you may very well catch a glimpse of what looks to be bodies hanging from that branch, slowly swaying in the breeze. Now, when the team from Weir, New Jersey arrived to begin their investigation, there was a 6-foot noose hanging from the tree. They noted having seen what looked like claw marks on the trunk from a person or very, very large animal. So they decided they'd climb up in the tree just to see how far up those marks went. They get up a little ways, and of course, after seeing nothing else there, they decided they were going to remove the noose. That's when they started hearing noises coming from inside of the tree. The noises started getting louder and louder, and then all of a sudden there was this loud bang followed by a burst of energy which launched the two investigators off of the branch and onto the ground below. Now, right next to the devil's tree, there's this random rock that says that's said to remain warm year-round, winter, summer, spring, fall. The locals say that this is the actual gate to hell. They think that it's the energy emitted from the many violent deaths that has caused this rock to remain warm. The heat rock, as it's called, is another factor when it comes to melting the winter snow that falls on or near the tree. So many folks tell you that if you visit the devil's tree during the winter, you'll find out that there's a 8 to 12 foot circle of ground that's around this tree, and of course the tree itself, where the snow melts when it hits the tree or the ground, and that everything else within eyesight is absolutely white, blanketed in snow, except for the devil's tree and the ground around it. So when Weir, New Jersey posted their story, there were a whole lot of comments that had been made by other folks that visited this tree and that had their own experiences there.